Hello everyone, my name is Luana and I am here with.
Hi everyone, my name is Mihaela.
This week we are very happy to have you tune in into our podcast, Hey Stella podcast.
I'm just so happy to see that people are responding. Podcast Hey Stella, which is really, really wonderful. 50 years of life and not have to bother people in my personal life who have their own lives to live and have their families to attend to. So it's almost like a healing process for me, this Hey Stella podcast. I keep saying that we have to explain the reason why we chose Hey Stella. Hey Stella, as many of you might know, has to do with the famous line from Hey Stella, the primal scream of Marlon Brando, character Stanley, in Elia Kazan's film based on Tennessee Williams' A Streetcar Named Desire. Hey Stella, when he's at the bottom of the stairs, he wants Stella to come out and he starts from one scream, Hey Stella, and he gets more primal and then he gets more primal. Was in the 1950s and he pretty much changed acting from the Actors Studio. Elia Kazan was one of the co-founders of the Actors Studio. So from that Hey Stella, the Actors Studio, to the whole world, acting became about living truthfully in the imaginary circumstances. There was no more acting is pretending. It took on the system of Stanislavski, which had come to New York. Konstantin Stanislavski, the father of the system, the father of the written manual for actors, an actor and director himself, came with the Moscow Art Theater to New York, to Broadway. People went to see the shows, and for the first time the American audiences were witnesses to the work that he had been observing, rearranging with his actors to make it real, to make it truthful. He wanted actors on stage to behave like human beings. He wanted actors on stage to be human beings. So when the audiences of New York watched this new kind of acting, at the end of it, there was a pause. When the curtain went down, there was a pause. Nobody applauded. Olga Dnipr, who was one of the actresses in the troupe of Konstantin Stanislavski, who I believe was also married to the famous writer Anton Chekhov, describes in this interview I had seen, and I'm trying to remember where I had seen it because it's so remarkable how she describes those minutes after the curtain goes down when they thought that they actually did a great job that night presenting it to the American audiences. But there was nothing. There was silence, she explains. And they were all backstage wondering what was wrong, starting to doubt that they had a great performance and believing that maybe they felt one way and the audience received it a different way. And as they were looking at each other, questioning, was this bad? Were we bad? They started hearing hands starting to applaud. Fewer in the beginning, slower in the beginning, and then they got to be more and faster, and people were giving them a standing ovation for about 5 minutes. It is incredible to me, but at the same time I understand, and I think she explains it quite well. She says, when people are exposed to something great, when their entire lives they were exposed to something good, they don't know it. They don't know how to react to it. The brain needs a couple of seconds or minutes to switch and receive it. We are used to mediocrity. We are used to something that's okay, that will do. So when something great hits us in the face, even though we might know that it is great, we're afraid of it because we are not used to it. That requires of us to take a risk and say, whoa, that feels uncomfortable. No matter of its greatness, it feels uncomfortable because it's not something that we are habitually, constantly understanding. So it hits us and it wakes us up to a different level of our emotional understanding, our intellectual understanding, and we need time to adjust. Majority of the people will settle because it feels as if they know that mediocre, good enough thing. Artists, the creative process doesn't allow for that, because if artists will just stay mediocre and good enough, humanity will not continue to be represented, as they are the people who represent humanity with all the greatness. So even if we are having a difficult time accepting our greatness, we have to portray it for others to receive it, because maybe there are a lot of others out there who need to take it in. So we cannot take it away from them just because we are afraid to portray it. If I'm an actor and if I don't want to tap into the great side of who I am, so I can bring that for the character that I'm playing as an actress, but I am bringing the character down to my comfort zone, to my mediocrity, I'm doing the character no justice. I'm doing the people watching me no justice. I am selfishly staying within my box of comfort, which is I'm not great. Why should I portray greatness when I don't myself feel great? Well, as myself, I don't have to learn to find that greatness inside myself. But if I'm an actor, I am demanded to find that greatness. So you have to make the choice. I'm not acting anymore, I'm an acting coach, but I'm giving this example for people who are out there acting, singing, all of the other arts, most importantly, acting. If you do not want to tap into all of your different nuances of humanity because you don't feel comfortable doing it, then do us all a favor and get the hell out of acting and do something else, please. There's so many people that are waiting to do just that and more. I'm really glad we're going to continue to finish our episode 2. I hope we can put all of these things together and then with what Luana has to say, and we can bring it to you by next week. I'm so excited. Yay! Hey Stella.
I'm extremely excited for the second episode. This is our baby is growing.
Our baby's growing, he's getting fatter just as I am.
I don't believe you.
We are getting so much good feedback from so many people, and this is we only have one episode out, so it's really great to understand how much people they're encouraging us to keep on doing it.
This podcast helps me want to keep doing this craft. And if you're listening and you feel the same, share it to your friends, share it to everyone. This podcast, I actually wanted to talk to you about this. This podcast is not specifically for actors, right, Miha?
Thank you so much for saying that, because I was just going to interrupt you. So many people have the narrow minded where they think that acting helps only actors. They have no idea how powerful the tools of actors are.
That's why I wanted to ask you, what would you like to talk about today?
I think the one important thing that needs to be made clear is that the foundation of any actor goes back to their senses: the sight, the smell, the hearing, the touch, the taste. Have I missed any?
No?
Nowadays, if you're looking at so many other events that are taking place all over the world that have nothing to do with acting, such as the exhibition that everybody's talking about of the immersing into the work of Van Gogh. Any other time before, you can go to a museum and you can walk around and you can visualize, meaning you can watch, you can see the paintings of the artists that you like, but you can have that sort of an experience where your sense of sight is the only one that's involved. What they're doing now, they're bringing another sense, which is the sense of touch, the sense of creating a place for those people who are going to experience this extraordinary event, and give them the feeling, allowing their brain to have triggers to emotions. And everyone seems to be so surprised that they are so emotionally moved, and they don't understand why that's happening to them.
Oh, and what you're telling me is that finally there's an experience. It's not only you're not the audience, because when you go in a museum, you're an audience member, but you're an active participant to your own experience because you add another sense.
Yes. That's
Mm.
what I'm saying, Rana. In this, who has been using all of the senses until now? The only professionals, the only artists who have their senses as notes to their instrument, which is the self, are the actors. You cannot be in front of a camera, you cannot be in front of an audience without using all of your senses, maybe two at a time, maybe one more than the other, but throughout the entire play, throughout the shooting of a film, you are living in those given circumstances of the script, of the story, of the character. You are living through your senses. Your senses are what make you active.
That's what's happening to this example, the exhibition, because they add another sense, maybe even the sense of hearing, because you hear other people reacting physically to something they touch. Everything is involved. You cannot be a simple participant. You have to react. It's a fight, flight, or freeze instinct, really.
Yeah.
And to fight, not to fight literally, but your body reacts in a way, so you cannot be untouched or neutral to something.
It's so unbelievable. His name is Steve Keller, and he's called the alchemist of sound. And what he does, he's associated with all of the great branding recognized by all of us because of its sound.
Okay.
It's amazing. There's a TED talk that he does. I think it was about 4 years ago, but I just happened to come upon it, and I was listening and I was blown away the whole time. Because he's also a psychologist, he explains it in such a way that's so much more detailed. It makes so much sense to me as an acting teacher, as an acting coach. He talks about the sound being the fastest to travel out of all the senses to the part of the brain, Luana, that trigger the emotions, where the emotions are.
Being triggered by a maybe a familiar sound, like the sound of fresh sheets or grounded coffee or stuff like that.
Exactly. He even talks about it. He talks about the coffee.
He actively engages in collaborative research projects exploring the power of sound to shape our perception and
Yes.
influence our behavior. Recent experiments include an examination of the relationship between sound and taste.
I am, oh my God, this is so extraordinary. This is so extraordinary because it's coming from a person who we think to be outside of acting, but it can inform acting to a level that we don't even know yet, Luana.
True.
So the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about the senses is because without the senses, we cannot act. The senses are part of how we go about everyday life. I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do, I open my eyes, right? I open my
Yes.
eyes, the sense of sight is being put in use. I see what's around me, I see where I am in the bed. So I know how to make the next step, which is the getting off of the bed. What's the next thing? I touch, I put my hands on the bed to be able to move myself to the edge of the bed, and then my feet touch the floor. The sense of touch, the touching of the bed, the sense
Yeah.
of touch with the feet on the ground. Then I help myself by pushing myself off of the bed to get up. The next thing that I do, still using the sense of sight, because if I didn't use the sense of sight, I'd be walking into walls if I close my eyes, right? So in
Sure.
order to make my way to the kitchen, once I get to the kitchen, I put on the coffee. Already the smell of the coffee that I've been having for my entire life, as long as I can remember, is a known smell to me. So that gives me some sort of pleasure to the whole moment of my waking up in the morning. But at the same time, throughout this whole event, the experiment of the morning, waking up in the morning, there's sounds coming from outside. We talked about the sound of music. Maybe there's not music, but maybe there's sounds that are coming from outside, sounds from inside. Maybe there's imaginary sounds that are playing in my head also at the same time. And then the coffee's ready. I pick it up, sense of touch again as I place my hand into the coffee pot to pour the coffee into the cup. I bring it up, I smell it again, sensation, I put it to my lips, sense of touch. My lips are starting to feel the taste of the coffee. Take the first sip, then you taste it on your tongue, and then it goes deeper. We function using senses every second of every minute of every day. We don't say to ourselves every second of every minute, oh, now I'm getting up from the bed, therefore I'm opening my eyes, and therefore I'm touching the bed. We don't do it like that. But as actors, we have to recreate that whole morning moment with all the senses in order to then know how to do it when we are no longer in the set of our house, but we are on a strange set.
So that meaning we have to have specific senses that keeps us grounded and keeps us human. Because when you're on stage or on set, you tend to even panic and do too much or do too little. So you say that these are grounding us and reminds us you're still human. You know how to do. You got this because you do it every day.
Because like you said, you're going to go, you're going to be doing absolutely nothing. You're going to say the line loud because you think that's going to make up for it by saying the lines really loud, or you're going to move your arms in a way that's not necessary because you think that by being animated, people are going to like you.
Or listen to you better. That's even
better. You're going to try to get their attention. When the one way to get their attention is to believe yourself in what you're doing. And the way that you believe yourself in what you're doing on stage or in front of a camera is by the use of your senses. Wake them up. Heightened senses. How do you get them to be alive on stage? By training them, living the morning moment over and over, by reliving the smell of the particular flower, by going into nature, by being curious about different events, such as going to the museum and learning about art and allowing your senses to be involved so they can be trained. The same way that you train your body, as you talked about last episode as an athlete, we as actors have to train our body, but then we have to train our senses.
Exactly. And I remember in the first year of acting school, and because I was so young, I said, okay, come on, I'm good at being human. I know how to listen. I know how to walk. What you're talking about. And then they said to us, when you go in the subway, be careful because after a month of school, you're opening so much to the things outside you. I got overwhelmed by so much. I could see so much around me. I could hear so much, and everything was making me very vulnerable. And then one of the teachers told me, she said, you'll see that you're not going to feel the need to go out and party after a semester of acting school. And I was wondering why. And she said, your senses are so open and active compared to how they used to be. And when you'll go on the dance floor, you'll get overwhelmed. And that's what happened to me. And I understood what she meant by that. Your senses are so open. So if you're trained, when you go in an exhibition like the Van Gogh exhibition, you might come out of there as a better performer.
A better performer, a better human being. You cannot be a better performer without being a human being, because the performer is first a human. You, Luana, are a human before you're a performer. You, Luana, are a person before you're an artist. You, Luana, are a person before you're an actress. So it teaches you, it inspires people to become better. It teaches us that we have so much potential as humans to be able to unite, to be able to find similarities and in rather than differences in our humanity. Acting is such a revolutionary art that its possibilities to do good, to disrupt for good, are endless. And that to me is so out of this world. We talked about this podcast, Hey Stella, being about acting, but then you said it's more than acting. And as actors, the experiences that you so beautifully and clearly described of you opening up your instrument from all of the training that you've done, this acting embraces politics because acting has to do with life lived, as Viola Davis puts it so well. Life lived. Life lived also deals with politics. We can't stay away from politics. I'm not saying that I'm a political analyst or I understand particularly in details what's going on, but I can understand pretty much a lot of what's going on. You have the gentleman, and he disrupted the world for bad, right? Some people might say, I'm not on any part, I'm not on the part of the Republicans, I'm not on the part of the Democrats because I don't know enough about it. But I can talk of it from the perspective of an acting teacher, an actress. So he comes on set. When he was coming down those stairs, he came as if he was an actor making his entrance.
He's coming in front of an audience, which is a whole country.
How does he know that sounds, Luana?
Because it represents power, and power is attractive.
But how did he know that? Because he was a reality star for 10 to 15 years. He had a show on television. He had learned all of the tools that we have talked about, going back to the senses, knowing to speak to the audience, knowing how to make the audience be particular to you. He used the powerful tools of actors to disrupt, and the whole nation was applauding him, and they took on his side and even went as far as to go with him into an alternate reality.
So what you're telling me is about the power of knowing what you want and what you need from the other.
Exactly. And knowing how to apply what tactic depending on who the other player is. Yeah. Because that it takes only that subtle understanding of, oh, he owns the stage, the others don't. They feel uncomfortable and they're not acknowledging, because it's one thing to feel uncomfortable. That's okay. That's human. But acknowledge that discomfort. So that makes you more of a human. And then the audience will relate to that, which is what he does. Even now, the Democrats, they go on TV shows and they keep talking about, oh my God, what's happened? Look at the disruptive world we're living in. Democracy is at stake, which is not a joking matter. This is really, really serious. But they're discussing it with the same tactic as if they were talking about someone before Trump.
Exactly. This is one of the things that always came up to me in acting class when I was studying the scene. And for example, I want to pursue that man that's very beautiful and I'm in love. So my first instinct is to go to him and say, would you like to come and have a coffee with me?
Yeah.
What? I always get this. My acting teacher would say, but what if you would choose the third, fourth, and fifth option you have? Why you feel like going to the first option? So what I get from what you're saying to me is change the strategy, because that's why we have history, to learn from history and
yeah,
just do something else. Because if you choose the same road, you'll fall again and again.
It just doesn't make sense that they're not adjusting their strategy, like you said, or their tactics. It's like, it takes me back to when I was watching the debate before he became president, the latest one between him and Hillary. And nobody ever talks about it from these like political strategists, because they don't know and it drives me insane. It's like, let somebody else help you with some of these things. I'm not saying myself, but yes, I'm available. What I'm trying to say is that he was upstaging her. He kept on finding his way in the frame behind her, in the back of her. So everybody watching from home, we were cracking up because Hillary didn't even know what to do about it. Like, instead of her in that moment when she saw that he was upstaging her and he was stealing the spotlight, she continued to talk as if that wasn't happening. Would you do that as an actress? No. Would you continue to talk as if that's not happening? No.
In a situation like this, it's as if, as an actor, if I was to be her, it's as if I am I'm ignoring one of my senses. I would face it. I would open up. I would talk about it. I would speak out.
You would speak about it. You would say, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing? It's my turn. Can you go and have a seat?" People would have cheered. But I don't know why this became political, but I was just watching TV, and every time I watch it, they're not realizing how much this man is using the tools of acting in a way that's so powerful. And we can also do the same, but we can use them to disrupt for good. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly, yeah. Because when you talk about politics and political figures, you're actually talking about characters. To me, this is how I see. To be in
Yes,
politics, you're actually going back to commedia dell'arte.
this craft is the one that deals with humanity, with our human condition, and points the light to all of the expressions that we have, from the bad to the good, from the angelic to the monstrous.
That's what I'm trying right now with my photography. That's what I'm trying right now with everything that I do artistically. I know it's beyond me. It's more than my problems. It's a problem of the planet, and I cannot put everything just about me. It's about me and the whole world, which is one of the reasons we decided to record our talks.
Yes.
Right? Everybody can be a photographer, but not everybody is willing to photograph every day. Take that card from the camera, put it in the laptop, edit those 3,000 pictures, post those pictures, print those pictures. So, yes, you can take a camera and be a photographer, but if you're not willing to do the dirty work, the one that you sit at a desk for hours, then you cannot be a photographer.
Yeah.
Everybody can be an actor, but if you're not willing to research days and days, and maybe your research will be zero.
What should we say for the end? I think that my most important thing that I have to recap for now would be sensory work is the foundation of actors. And those powerful tools can be so beneficial to do so much good in the world. So let's please do that.
Thank you, Miha, for saying that. Thank you for reminding me, because I feel like I should have this sentence on my screen. Thank you all for listening. I hope you'll see you next week on a Hey Stella podcast episode.
Thank you so much for taking this journey with us on Hey Stella podcast. There's so much more to come. Acting is not pretending. Bye for now. See you next week. This is Mihaela.
And this is Luana. Bye.